Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Dirty Money. My name is Ben Hedges, and as always, I have Mike in the studio with me today. How you doing, Mike?
Great, Ben. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm good. Now, you are on the road, so you're joining us from your hotel room, which is pretty awesome. Um, we have a action-packed show for you guys today. Okay, so the big news is that FTX, the founder of FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried, who is in a lot of trouble, has had some of his charges dropped. Okay, not all. He's still on the hook for a lot of things, but he's had a couple of his charges dropped. So we're going to be talking about that and why that is. Then we're going to be looking at FedNow, which launched last week, the Fed's new instant payment method, which could it be the end of the financial system as we know it? We'll let you know all about that. Then we have Ford, which just took out a $9 billion loan, and that's significant. Mike's going to let you know why in just a second. And then we're going to be looking into the Hollywood writers and actors strike, which has been stirring things up over there. And then we got another crypto coin to talk about as well at the end. So, guys, if you are following us on or listening to us on the major podcast platforms, do leave us a 5-star review. Share this show with your friends. And if you're on any of the other platforms like Instagram, YouTube, and also TikTok, our handle on all those is at Dirty Money Show. So do give us a follow, and you can see a lot more of our small short form content and reels. But without further ado, let's get started. And I want to talk about the FTX charge that has been dropped. So what this pertains to is actually the finance contributions, campaign finance violations. So Sam Bankman-Fried, if you don't know, he was the biggest Democrat donor after George Soros in Washington, D.C. There he is. And basically, this charge was not on the original extradition warrant from the Bahamas, okay? Because he was extradited from the Bahamas to the U.S., and this charge was something the U.S. prosecutors added later, this campaign finance violation thing. So actually, the judge decided because it was added later, the prosecutors ended up having to drop the charge. And a similar thing happened with the bribery charge. He was accused of bribing a Chinese official to unlock frozen assets. That charge was apparently also not on the initial extradition, charges. I think it was 11 charges, and it was later raised up to 13. So now I think he's still in trouble. He's still in a lot of trouble. But it's only 11, I think, 11 charges, not the 13 charges, because 2 of them were added later. But actually, he's not out of the water, because this sounds like a good thing. But there's also some kind of bad news for Sam Bankman-Fried. Basically, he's been accused of using the media to harass a key witness, none other than the CEO of Alameda Research, Caroline Ellison, who is supposedly talking. And he leaked some messages to the New York Times. We can pull that one up too. So, and yeah, go ahead, Mike.
So you're saying that the charges dropped against him had to do with him funding the Democratic Party?
Yep.
So what exactly does that entail? I'm really curious to like how if I give the Democratic Party or the Republican Party a boatload of money, and I've used fake fraud money to do it, or the biggest Ponzi scheme the world has ever known, however you want to describe this, and then I turn around and give it to the Democratic Party for whatever reason, and
Yeah.
now these charges are dropped as if I never gave them the money.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because the one charge that could severely implicate politicians here in the US has been dropped, right? Because when they start to do discovery and investigations into it, they'll see all the names of the people who donated money to. And he even donated money to the people who were doing the investigation into him, right? The Senate Finance Committee is headed by the Democrats. Is it? It's Maxine Waters. Yeah, Maxine Waters, right? Who he donated to, right? So it's kind of amusing.
Yeah, I mean, how does the DOJ have any authority to. I feel like we should have like a third party government doing this type of work now, because it's ridiculous where they're like, we're gonna just drop anything that has to do with politicians on this one, and we'll keep these other things going on. And then the woman that's kind of spoken out about all this, we're gonna say she was getting harassed through media, which he didn't own the media, so how is he gonna harass her through media?
Well, he linked. Sorry, he supposedly leaked a text message conversation to the New York Times. I can read you out that. So basically, they say that the prosecutors are saying that he should be now jailed. They're basically saying he's violated his bail, because he gave the New York Times some personal correspondence by Caroline Ellison. She was the CEO of Alameda Research, cryptocurrency trading hedge fund, offshoot of FTX. But basically, then his either the judge or basically having contact with the press alone shouldn't be witness tampering. But setting out to tarnish Ellison in an international publication read by many potential jurors in the New York-based case. So he's crossed a line towards inappropriately influencing jurors, intimidating the witness, and sending a message to prospective jurors. So he possibly could have violated his bail. They think he should be locked up until the trial. I mean, he's basically under house arrest. He has to be confined to his parents' house. But yeah,
How does that work? Like, oh, where's the proof that says he leaked this text message? I mean, it's a phone and it's a text message. I mean, someone else could get it. Someone could have picked up his phone and done whatever with it. And they're accusing this guy of leaking this text message on purpose. It seems like, they're trying to clean this up quick before something gets exposed. And these two things almost, and how I look at it is like it's tandem. The DOJ drops anything that has to do with the party donations, and then here they're like, well, we need to put them in jail now, right? I mean, I'm worried about what happens with the whole, we put him in jail, does he end up like Epstein? Like, what's going on here?
it seems like he's the fall guy, doesn't it? But they're trying to protect everyone else that could be implicated.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying this guy did anything good. Let's be clear on that right now. I'm just really confused on here's this kid who's kind of been run through the ringer basically, and I can only imagine what the real story is on the back end.
Oh, I
You know,
bet it's wild. Yeah.
right, right, absolutely. Like if he lives 20 more years, like let's read the memoirs of Sam Bankman-Fried. Like that's
I
gonna
want
be
to
grade A reading material.
I want to hear about the Bahamas penthouse parties, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you can hear about those anywhere. Go watch The Wolf of Wall Street. You can experience probably similar details to his parties. But ultimately, it's like, how did you really start this FTX, and how
Right.
did you manage to rope in all of these celebrities to back you? And
Yeah.
then on top of it, now you're the second largest donor to the Democratic Party behind George Soros. We all know George has the most amazing hedge fund in the history of hedge funds. This thing's grown 20% year over year for 40 years straight. Like, if you want to make money, go ahead and follow George Soros's hedge fund. He's doing 20% this year, guaranteed. Uh, that's not financial advice. That's just how that system works. So it's pretty interesting. I would love to like get that guy to
Get him
talk.
on the show.
Yeah, just any conversation with him. You're gonna be like,
Yeah.
whoa, you know.
Well, I think he's not allowed to talk at the moment, but yeah,
Well,
it would be amazing.
clearly they don't want him to talk. They're trying to put him in jail for potentially leaking a text message,
Yeah.
as incriminating to somebody that, in my mind, isn't going to have that much substantial back. That's just a crazy claim to turn around and say that potential jurors could read the New York Times article. Like, how many people read the New York Times every day and pick up those articles? Are you serious?
It's not so many anymore, right?
Like, yeah, it just seems ridiculous. But Speaking of crypto and wonderful systems set up in the financial markets, what happened with that FedNow story?
Right. So yeah, that's it's a pretty cool story. So FedNow actually was activated, right? They switched it on last Thursday. And it's already become self-aware and it's about to destroy the world. No, I'm kidding. Um,
Cyberdyne.
it's not Skynet. But anyway, so they released a press release, basically, outlining what's happened. And the system is switched on, and there are 35 early adopter banks, of which I think J.P. Morgan Chase, U.S. Bank are included. Also, Wells Fargo is in there, and basically the banks have access to it now, so they are gonna now work out how to use it. So it could actually be months or even a year or more before you can actually send a FedNow payment, because the banks are trying it out first. We know how much is it going to cost. At least for the banks, it's going to cost 4.5 cents per payment. That's what the banks are paying the Fed for it. They will actually charge us more, all right? Because, for example, ACH costs like half a cent or less than half a cent per payment. And the banks then put a markup on that to charge
Right.
consumers. So this is 4.5 cents per payment. So yeah, they're obviously going to put a markup. So, who knows what it'll actually end up costing, maybe a couple of dollars or something to send a payment. But, if you're sending like $10,000 or something, a couple of bucks, isn't going to be a problem. But a lot of people, they sort of feel, oh, is this like the start of a more centralized financial system? Are they going to release a central bank digital currency to go along with this? I mean, that's a possibility in the future, but just this system alone, from what I see, they're really just competing with real-time ACH, which is a system run by the clearinghouse, which, if you've ever done an ACH transfer, which I'm sure you have, Mike,
Yeah.
anyone in the audience, if you get your paycheck paid into your bank account directly, that's most likely an ACH transfer, automated clearinghouse, it's called. And there is a real-time version of that, but only both the bank, the receiving bank and the sending bank have to be signed up for it. So it's not as common. Most ACH transfers, it takes, overnight to get to your account. So FedNow, it's an immediate version. But it's really it's basically competing with real-time ACH. And like real-time ACH, both banks have to be signed up for it. So both the receiving bank and the sending bank. So really, this isn't something that is going to compete with credit or debit cards. It's something for larger payments, most probably business to business, or maybe sending paychecks so that people get their paycheck immediately, that kind of thing. But I don't believe like the sort of scare stories that some people have shared, like, oh, we're all going to be using FedNow for every payment, and if we post the wrong meme on the internet, our payment system will be turned off. I don't really think it's like that. Yeah, maybe in the future, but at least not now.
Well, it's got to be a slow roll, all right? They're not going to come out and say, "Here's the central bank digital currency. Here's FedNow, and turn in your dollars so you can get more digital currency than the dollars are worth." Enticing the population. But fundamentally, ACH direct deposits, like, as a company, you're going to pay anywhere from $15 to $30 a month for that fee. If this is 4.5 cents, I still don't see them trying to create a per usage cost to a small business or to individuals, because it's still not going to be worth it. But they're going to probably charge $15 a month so that they can do it. Because if you do 100 of them, it's $4.
There's one point to make. There's a $25 a month fee for every routing number that receives FedNow payments. So you pay 4.5 cents to send, but for every routing number that receives, you have to pay $25 a month. So that means that if you wanted to receive your paycheck through it, you'd be paying $25 a month. Yeah.
Ouch.
Quite a bit, isn't it?
That's going to be hard. That's going to be hard to catch on. People I'll wait a day for my paycheck, right?
Exactly. And why do people care about getting their paycheck one day early? Because if it's on the same day every month, then it's 30 days or 31 days in between paychecks. So what does it matter if it's one day early, Maybe if it's out of sync with your rent or your mortgage or something, but
I know some people that really struggle sometimes to keep up with that 1 month. So in their mind, it's going to go All right, I got 1 day earlier. My check's 29 days now.
But then they have to no, but it's not because then they have to
I
wait for
know.
30 days for the next one, right?
Exactly. No, I know. But there's a reason why payday advance companies are so prominent. It's because
The
you
1
can.
month when you switch to FedNow, you get 29 days, and then after that, it's 30 days again.
Right, but it's the same concept of trying to get loans on purchase orders for your business, right? So if you turn around and say, "Hey, I have a purchase order for $10 million," and then you're like, "Can I get a loan for the 5 million to make sure that I can produce this $10 million order?" Same concept, you're trying
Yeah.
to use this money to get that money. And so I think FedNow it's fine. It's not going to affect anybody's life for at least a year. And
No.
really, what it does is it allows clearinghouses to clear their money at every moment. They don't have to wait to clear the bank numbers at the end of the day. They're
Yeah.
going to be able to clear as soon as the market closes or whatever time they decide is good for them. So, yeah, let's see what the CBDC has to do with all this, the central bank digital currency. I know Sam Altman just dropped his WorldCoin. So,
We'll be
that's
talking about
another
that in a few minutes.
yeah, that's another crazy interesting story. But I mean, FedNow, it's been all hype, really, up
Right.
until
Yeah.
this point. There's 35 monster banks using it, and anybody else is not a trillionaire or worth $500 billion is not playing in this farm.
Well, let's move on and talk about, speaking of large amounts of money, let's talk about this $9.2 billion loan that Ford has applied for. Why don't you take
Yeah.
that away, Mike?
So the last time Ford applied for a loan or received a loan, they're now like kind of closing this, but was in November 26, 2006. They were about 18 months ahead of the economic recession that came to everybody who lived in 2007, 2008, all the way to 2012. We saw the worst financial times since the Great Depression in the United States. And Ford was forward thinking. They turned around and got a $23 billion loan 18 months before that, and they leveraged everything that they had. The blue oval that you see for the Ford, they leveraged
Mm.
that logo. They said, you know what? If we don't pay you back, you own Ford. They leveraged their whole company when
Whoa.
they did this. And at the end of the day, they didn't owe the government any money
Yeah.
because 18 months later, you had places like General Motors
They
and
got sold, didn't they? No, not GM. It was Fiat Chrysler got sold.
well, they merged, right? So
They
so
merged.
so
Yeah.
Chrysler had taken over prior to that, and then Fiat, and then Chrysler dumped, or I mean, Daimler dumped Chrysler and left him with no cash, right? So Daimler clears out the bank and then says, "All right, we're done with Chrysler. We'll take your $20 billion and have a good day." That's what Mercedes did to Chrysler. So fast forward a few years, and you have a company in crisis along with General Motors, and they both plummeted with everything. They had to take out, as the government was handing out money to everybody anyway. They were like, "We'll take some of that." $14 billion later, and the government actually made money on that, because they basically got the return from the stock options, and
They
when
did.
they
Yeah.
yeah, when they sold it, I think there was a good net profit the United States made on those stocks. So it's pretty interesting to think about. But recently, the Department of Energy is now the loaning company to Ford, and they're taking $9.2 billion to build 3 battery factories. This originates from the
Oh,
Inflation
Reduction
Reduction
Act.
Act from the Biden administration, which is kind of like an oxymoron when you're like,
Yeah. That
we're gonna
floods the economy with new money.
what? Right? We're gonna flood the economy with new money, but the inflation's gonna go down. But interestingly enough, inflation has kind of curbed itself, but I don't think it had anything to do with this act.
No.
This
Or with
act,
the Fed. The Fed
it was,
raising rates.
well, they raised them again,
Yeah.
25 basis points. I mean, they said they're not going to stop till October. But yeah, the DOE has $412 billion in lending capacity now to lend for energy projects and all the above. Now, prior to this act, some of their biggest loans were like $500 million. Now these guys have to get rid of a pile of money. And if you go to this article and you scroll down a little bit, Brian, you can see where they're allocating all these funds. There's a chart, or yeah, so you can see all the different places that they're doing. I think it's $20 billion to the tribal community. Uh,
Wow.
that 100%.
Elizabeth Warren will be pleased with that.
Yeah, I mean, good identification for her. Totally understandable. I mean, what a nightmare there.
For her people, you know?
Oh, so they have to take this money and then loan it. But they did a partnership with a company called SKON from Korea, their battery manufacturing company. So they're going to build 2 facilities in Tennessee and 1 in Kentucky, or the other way around.
A lot of this is for green stuff, isn't it? Like green energy.
Yeah, that's basically what they're trying to do, is pump the green energy. And I'm still at a loss. I mean, if you looked at some of the burning fires in Kuwait for tires, and you look at like how China disposes of their energy resources that they need, like green energy to me is not even realistic in the United States. It's like we don't contribute on any scale compared to what happens with the Asian market when it comes to emissions and things like that. We're less than 1/3 of their issues. So
Yeah.
so like if you really
fracking already helped us lower it considerably, didn't it?
right. And so it's now you head over to Asia and the Middle East, and you start talking about the emissions that come from their recycling habits and their detriment to the planet. It's not even comparable. Like, we have so many laws, we have the EPA, we have all these different things that restrict us, which is great to some extent, but how are you going to compare it to the other parts of the world? It seems like every year there's a new problem. But the new Ford's going to put together this electric vehicles, which is interesting because they were the first ones to announce that they were going to use Tesla's charging stations with Tesla this year. So I think it's kind of interesting that it's going to take place. I don't know, what they're going to really try to achieve and how long it's going to take to build this factory. I mean, Tesla built their gigafactory in China in 9 months. I'm going to put that pretty much on slave labor, if not very close to slave labor, given the Communist Party's unethical and unhuman acts that they perform against their people. So, but they're also building another one in Mexico, and the estimations there are 18 to 20 months, which is realistic, and that's crazy fast to build almost 1 million square foot facility. So we'll see how long it takes for Ford and this Korean company to build out their gigafactory examples.
Tesla's actually building a distribution center in Orange County, New York, which is, well, it might not mean anything to the audience, but it's basically where I am in the country. Tesla to open distribution center in Orange County. So it puts us on the map.
Woohoo! I mean,
yeah.
Don't you guys have Legoland there now too?
We have Legoland. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Woo-hoo. Yeah, I mean, distribution center for batteries. Let's hope they don't leak. That's all I'm going to say. But I mean, that'll probably create a lot of articles there.
Yeah.
Or not a lot of jobs and
Jobs.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. So it's a good thing, but Tesla is taking a little bit of fire recently for their manual transmissions, and then their stocks with their board, and their stocks.
What are these manual transmissions that you were talking about?
Oh, so I guess what it turns out is the manual transmissions don't allow the cars to upgrade their services and to create new software updates. So they're getting hit with different lawsuits
So
from
which
that.
ones have manual transmissions? Is it the early one,
Well,
like
first
early stuff?
editions. Yeah, the first
What?
edition Model S's and stuff.
Okay,
Long, I mean 2009, 10, 12,
I see.
something. Old school ones. The first ones you saw driving down the road and you're going, "What's that?" Kind of
Yeah.
like when the Karmas came out. Remember those?
The what?
The Karma electric vehicles. You
No.
never heard of them? Yeah, they came out, but I'm pretty sure they're done now. They were
Okay.
they were around the emerging around the same time as Tesla, and Tesla kind of put them into the put them in the dust. But I think they had some electrical issues. They were catching fire and things like that. But we'll see how it goes. Ultimately, this issue with Ford, I'm curious if it's like a predecessor, right? Because we know the rest of the world right now is not pumping at the same caliber the United States is.
Right. Yeah.
The rest of the world is, in my eyes, doing half of what we're doing
Yeah.
still. And it's like, and we're slowly slowing down, but all the numbers say differently. But when you really start to get into the trenches, you go, well, this person's looking for a job. This person's looking for a job. And, a year ago, no one was looking for a job. They were going, I'm busy.
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of the same sentiment I was getting in 2009 when everybody was like, I'm looking for a job. I need a job. I'll do anything. I need to make money. And so now it's just starting to
Well,
happen.
2009 though was already well into the
Yeah, but I'm
crisis.
saying like that's when things were really really loud. Your
When the
neighbor.
unemployment rate peaked and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, things got pretty reckless. But you could see it in 2006, especially in the Midwest, where you had companies, like Ford taking the $23 billion loan to try to stay above water, which they did. I mean, good for them. But we'll see what happens and see if it turns out to be what it's supposed to be. I think we'll still stay above water in the United States, but we'll probably see growth,
Right.
especially with
So it could be a leading indicator that a recession is coming, not financial advice.
it could be, but also I definitely look at it as an indicator that we're slowing down growth.
Yeah.
That's for sure. With the commercial buildings, commercial, all of that stuff, we're definitely slowing down our growth patterns.
Well,
So
let's move on, Mike. So because we have another sort of crisis out in California, the Hollywood writers strike. Well, it's not actually writers; it's writers and actors strike, isn't it? It's the first time they've strike together for like
yeah,
what 40 years or
60
more.
years. First time they've done a strike together in 60 years. Now, the
Wow.
Writers
Yes.
Guild of America started in May, right? But recently, the Screen Actors started to do strike as well, and they want 11% raise in the baseline and an 8% raise over the next 2 years, which
And let's
is
just to clarify it for people who might not understand. So the Screen Actors Guild is like their union, right? Which they're all part of. So, but the majority of people in this union are not like Brad Pitt. The majority of the hundreds of thousands of people or tens of thousands of people, the majority of them are, people who play small parts or play extras or whatever. Which there are literally tens of thousands or over 100,000 of these people who are actors, but you wouldn't know their names. And the union sets certain rates for them for different productions and stuff. So that's what they're asking for. And a lot of them aren't actually paid that well. You think, what's his name?
well,
Leonardo DiCaprio gets like 20 million per movie, but the minimum that you can be paid per movie is actually not very much in different roles, especially in the non-leading roles.
yeah, so only there's 160,000 members in the Screen Actors Guild, and only 12% of them make over $26,000 a year.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of puts it in perspective. And then you think about it, the highest paid actor last year was Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, and that guy got over $200 million last year. I don't even know what he was paying from or what he was doing. I'm sure there's 10 movies that'll come out. Part of me says it has to do with Fast and Furious, but you know, he seems to always have a new show or a new movie dropping every couple of, you know, every six
Yeah.
months, something like that. And so, and then Brad Pitt was next in line, or not Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise next in line at 100 million.
Wow.
So that was the Maverick,
Yeah.
Top Gun, which makes sense. I mean, that movie did excellent. But so most of these guys are just trying to fight to get above inflation. I mean, can you imagine living in California and making $26,000
Oh
a
my
year?
goodness. In
Now we know.
LA.
Yeah, now we know why
Yeah.
there's tent cities. They're all actors. Um, but I'm a firm believer that says, you know, if uh, if you need a union to make sure people are paying, then that's not free market enterprise. I would say, if you know, if someone wants to work for $2, then let them work for $2. It's on them. If they don't want to, they don't have to. You know,
Right.
go find
Yeah.
somebody that's going to pay you what you want. But so this is a union move, but it's interesting to think about, like, Disney CEO Bob Iger said that, you know, the striking actors and demands are just not realistic, and it's like
Mm.
11% over 26,000 is what, $2,700.
Yeah. It's not that much, is it? Yeah.
Like, and here's this guy, he's like, I'm clearing like 50 mil this year personally, but 2,600 for that guy who's trying to survive and is in the background of every movie we make. uh they can't get a couple grand. So it doesn't seem realistic. I mean, the real effect that's going to be is in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, when the production houses like Netflix and Apple TV Plus and Sony and Paramount, Warner, all these guys are like, we got
Right.
nothing
Yeah.
new to come out.
Well, that's what 1 billion. I forget who it was, but there was a certain billionaire who said this. He made this comment. He said, by the time this ends, there's going to be like a lag because it will take time for new productions to be made, even once it's finished. So there's going to be a period of time where there's not enough content on all these streaming platforms and stuff, and people are going to stop subscribing, or people are going to cancel subscriptions, and then that's going to cause a cash flow problem, which means then they can't make new productions. Well, they have to borrow money to make them. So it's going to create a sort of vicious cycle, possibly, that could really ruin the whole entertainment industry. So it's actually a pretty big thing. It could be the downfall of Hollywood or whatever.
Yeah, well, they say right now the potential impact's about $4 billion. That's from the Millikan Institute. uh, that was written 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So now the Emmys are canceled, right? Or postponed. So, you know, that's a big deal to that world. Is once the Emmys are canceled, what are you gonna how are you gonna
Why
make this?
they canceled? These people can't go to the Emmys.
Yeah.
Are they paid to be there?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, you definitely get checks to show up to anything when you're famous.
Oh wow.
So, yeah, the Emmys are on hold. They're postponed, are officially postponed actually. But the average Hollywood actor makes about 27 bucks an hour, which, is, well, you think $27 is pretty good, but they're not working 40-hour weeks.
They're not. No, that it's freelance, isn't it? So it's kind of like comes and goes, you know?
Yeah, it's definitely got that up and down roller coaster. So, they know the work that they're in. I think that they'll come to eventually something's gotta give. Otherwise, everybody that's a CEO of these large production houses is looking at it going, how am I going to get new content? Do I go
And
to Canada to
Brian just
produce?
added in the chat, the terms of their strike is that they cannot promote any movies in this period. So the Emmys, I guess, would be counted as promoting their films and their TV shows. It's TV, isn't it? Yeah, so promoting their TV shows. So that's why the Emmys is canceled.
Well, yeah, that's crazy. Uh, they can't promote anything at all.
No, that's part of the terms of their strike. They're not working and they're not doing any promotion for any TV shows or movies.
Wow.
Apparently,
Well,
prohibit.
no interviews.
Look, the union has released a strike rules that prohibit actors from promoting any new movies or TV shows. This means Barbie and Oppenheimer premieres are likely to be the last for a while. Okay, so those two movies are kind of like the last ones, I guess, because they're already in production. But any new ones, they're not. They're not
Oh
doing
man,
premieres.
Dune was supposed to drop this year. I was looking forward to it. Brutal. Oh, all right. Well, I guess I'll just have to go watch stuff from Angel Studios. That's fine. It's a little
Wow.
bit more hard hitting. Oppenheimer, Cast Walk. I was gonna go watch this movie actually. I was gonna take my son, but then I found out it was rated R. I was
Well, it's
like,
got one scene in it. Yeah, it's got a sex scene in it that bumps it up to R. Otherwise, it would be PG-13.
what's the point? Like, what
I
was it
think
really worth it?
what's his guy? Christopher Nolan. I think he just wanted it to be rated R, so he put a sex scene in there to bump it up.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It could
I
have
hate
been.
Christopher Nolan. He does a lot of self-indulgent stuff for the sake of it. I'm not really a fan of his movies. I don't know. Some of them I like, some of them I don't.
Yeah, where my kid's just pretty obsessed with, uh, you know, the whole atomic bomb, and he's read books on it and things like that. How he was reading a book about how a man was in Hiroshima, and then he left after the bomb and got on a train to go to Nagasaki, and then he was in both bombs. And I was like, whoa, what a crazy life.
Well,
He's
when it comes out on streaming, you can just fast forward through the sex scene because the rest
yeah,
of it's
right.
PG-13. It's literally that one scene that makes it R. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that say it was important to the character, but I don't think so. You can always imply, close the doors, cut to the next scene.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's ways and means to perform that appropriately.
Yeah, you got silhouettes outside the window or something, you know, like
Yeah,
you don't
right.
have to.
You don't
Yeah.
need to be graphic. It's
Yeah.
really not needed. I'm a firm believer in that. So we'll see what goes on with the Screen Actors and Guild and the writers all at the same time. I mean, I'm curious to
It
see
is
what.
interesting to see the sort of collapse of Hollywood whilst Sound of Freedom is doing really well. It's kind of like the two things are very linked up, as if the sort of climate is shifting. You know, the stars sort of aligned for Sound of Freedom, and kind of like,
Right.
yeah, interesting to see. You know,
And I saw Sound of Freedom, and I still don't understand what's the craziness behind it. Like, they didn't even imply anybody or
well,
anything. Like,
I
the
think
cartel steals people.
it hits too close to home for many of the people that's involved. Did you see Anthony Weiner? He went on Patrick Bet David's podcast, Valuetainment, and Patrick Bet David asked him about Sound of Freedom on the show, right? And you know, Weiner is like he had the laptop with all the
Oh yeah.
crazy stuff
Yeah.
on it, right? Sexual text messages with like a 15-year-old or something, or whatever it
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
with a minor, right?
Yeah.
And he's he goes, oh yeah, you know, I don't know much about it, Sound of Freedom, but I hear it's a good movie. Yes. Like he totally faked it that he didn't know what it was. He knows exactly what it is,
For
right?
sure.
And then he said, someone asked him, well, you know, do you think it's a problem that there's people, you know, kidnapping children and doing child pornography? And then he says, yeah, you know, I mean, any type of pornography is terrible. You know, there's lots of men who are addicted to pornography. He lumped it together with regular pornography, like adult consensual, you know, he lumped the two things together. And the guy next to him was shocked. He was like, you're seriously lumping those two things together? And he kept going with it. He was like, yeah, I am. Yeah. Any pornography's bad, you know? It was, you can look up the clip on YouTube. It is, it's shocking.
That's ridiculous. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a pretty hard hitting stuff when you really get into it, into the trenches, knowing that it happens here in America. I'm waiting for them to come out with, part two, where they really dive into what happens inside of our borders, where you hear all these stories and you see these articles about people finding people, and you're like, that was in where? Houston, California? What? This
Yeah.
is crazy.
Because
So
um, they've definitely been doing here. I'm going to post this if you guys want to, if we want to check it out quickly, because it is kind of shocking here. I'll post it here in the chat. Maybe,
yeah, pull it up.
maybe Brian can pull it up and we can just check it out with everyone, because I was shocked when I saw it.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. I haven't seen it, so I want to see it. That's for sure.
Yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet either. I really, yeah, here we go.
I've read a lot of things about it. What is it about exactly? It's a very popular movie now.
You haven't watched Sounds of Freedom?
I see any movies, to be honest, but no,
Okay.
I don't.
Do you think, the stats they quote in Sounds of Freedom, which is as a father of four, you got one that's 11, about to be 12. I got an 11, 9, 7, and a 2-year-old. So, the mindset of a father where once you have a kid, you're no longer in one place. You're always in two places. If you got one, three places, four places, five places, so you're continuously everywhere. They quote the stat of 20 million new child pornography pictures have been uploaded on the internet the last 12 months. That's a 5,000% increase in the last 5 years. The fact that it's a $150 billion industry per year, pedophilia, human trafficking, the fact that you can sell cocaine once, but you can sell a 5-year-old child 5 to 10 times a day for 10 years, depending on what the age of the kid is. And that this is a crisis that is happening with minors around the world, with what's going on around the border right now, where kids are coming unaccompanied. This is a real issue. Do you see that as a top 5 crisis in America today?
It's a huge problem. I didn't know that's what the movie was about. It's a huge problem, but I'll go beyond that. I mean, there is a I don't want to get out over my skis, and it's probably $1 trillion industry around pornography of all types. That is completely, I mean, I see guys in these rooms, we have this notion of the 8th and 9th steps of making amends. And these guys who are addicted to pornography, and the idea that every time they're watching pornography, it's probably a human trafficked, or if someone who's been exploited, or someone who's forced into these things. This is a huge problem writ large. I haven't seen the program, but it sounds, as a father, it sounds horrible.
But Anthony, you're not equivocating porn with child sex trafficking.
Well, what I'm saying is that I'm putting them in the same category. I'm putting them in the same category.
Consensual sex.
Well, hold on a second.
Versus child sex trafficking.
We have no idea. We have no idea about what consent people have given. Whether they, if you don't believe that porn is exploitive of people, then I mean, you and I have a different understanding. I'm not saying that all of it is. I'm not saying.
I highly disagree.
I'm not saying that all of it is, but I'm saying it's the same. It's the same general problem that we're looking at stuff that's going on all the time, relatively out in front of us, that we don't really are thinking about the way that it's corrosive to society.
Surely children having
that's
sex
basically
is not the same thing as adult having sex.
That's insane.
You look at his eyes when he's talking there, man. He looks so like he's not really there. You know what I mean? He's sort of just like a robot. Well, I haven't really seen the movie, so I can't really remember. But this guy's addicted to porn. It's bad. All porn is bad.
Oh wow! I mean, what a piece of work.
I was amazed that he actually went on that show, though.
Well, I mean, he's gotta start trying to get traction somewhere, but fundamentally, he legitimately said like there's so many, like, don't get me wrong, it's a industry, but fundamentally, like, there's documents, there's signed paperwork, there's all kinds of stuff that goes into it, and we're talking it's a completely different spectrum.
There's one thing he said that I guess is true, is that if you're on the internet and you just find a piece of adult content, you really have no idea whether it is consensual or not, right? That's the one thing he said that is true. But the way he talked, he was saying it's all bad. He wasn't, it's like black and white. There's obviously
there was no like
children,
Yeah, there was nothing that defined him as saying this is bad.
No.
Yeah, they should go after this. It was like, well, we'll just throw it in the bucket.
Yeah, he was trying to dumb it down and make it no worse than any other porn. Shocking, man. And why would he do that?
It's brutal.
Anyway, let's cheer ourselves up, because I know we got one more topic for today.
Yeah, well, I mean, we got Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, just dropped his WorldCoin.
Okay,
now,
what is this? Because I don't know anything about this.
If you're not familiar with WorldCoin, this is a cryptocurrency project where he intends to make sure that people of the world can identify themselves. This is a form of ID. So you use this eye scanner, this retinal scanner, you go up to, and you get 50 WorldCoins. And so,
wow.
Right. But it's going to give up all your information for your retinal eye scan. Like, that sounds
sketchy, man.
Super sketch, right? Like, I didn't dive into it too much, but I was like, this guy is in charge of the largest AI company in the world, and he's like, let me scan your eyeball. What? What did you just say? No, 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 no. And like these things are all over, so people are going up and they're like, I'll scan my eyeball, and then turns out you
Two
can't
million.
treat. What'd you say? Yeah, 2 billion.
2 million people have had their eyes scanned
Yeah,
already.
right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he wants to use it as a world identification. You can't technically buy it on the U.S. crypto markets, but Binance has it.
Oh,
Um,
Binance.com, right? Yeah, the one you
yeah,
have to use a VPN to access. It's very
exactly.
annoying.
Yeah. So, but there's 143 million of these coins, of which 100 million were loaned out to market makers and allocated to the investors who verified the project's orb technology and all that stuff. And it's interesting because it peaked out on Friday when it released, and it wasn't Friday; it was the other day. It peaked out at $5.29 a coin.
Oh wow! And then it
Yeah,
crashed.
yeah, obviously. But the what it's worth now, they're saying is around a penny. But fundamentally, yeah, people lined up to go and get their eyeballs scanned for some WorldCoin.
Wow.
Yeah, it's super creepy. That's the best thing I could think of is like you're in charge of Chat GPT and you want to scan everybody's eyeballs and then make it their identification going forward. No thanks.
Yeah. And then
I'm
what
good.
does he do with the information? What does
Yeah.
Chat GPT do with it? It's yeah,
Right.
that's scary.
Right. But you got people, on the other side of the world where if it was at $5 a coin, that's $250. That goes a long way. Thailand
Could
and
be a
places.
month's salary, couldn't it? Yeah,
Exactly.
some places.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think I keep your eye on this Altman guy.
Mm.
Given his high level position in OpenAI, his funding from Microsoft, and now his ambitions of the last 3 years to create a world ID through a retinal scan. All I can think about is a movie where a robot walks up to you and like scans your eyeball with their eyeball, and they say, "You're good, you can go."
Or they say, "Oh, you're wanted for whatever," and then they put you in a
You're
meat
wanted
grinder.
for a future crime.
A thought crime, yeah.
Yeah, right.
We
So
can see your thoughts through your eyeballs.
yeah, well, we've done some research into the future, and you're going to commit a crime tomorrow. You are arrested for future crime.
Yeah.
What was
Scary,
that
man.
movie called? That was Tom Cruise was in it.
Oh, Minority Report?
Well, yeah, there you go,
Yeah.
future crime.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'll keep an eye on it again. We'll see where it goes. The U.S. isn't allowing the coin, but something says that they'll allow the retinal scan.
I'm sure they
So
will. I mean, there's other companies that already do that, like Clear, for example, the airport
yeah,
security.
TSA.
Does TSA do? I think it's Clear. You know, Clear. That's a
Yeah.
similar thing. It's a similar thing to TSA PreCheck, but it's a separate program, and you can scan your eye, and basically they collect your data, right? So it's kind of scary.
No
You know?
thanks.
Yeah. No thanks. I'm not doing it.
I'll wait. I'll wait in line.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
got TSA Pre is all right. I'm fine with that, because they don't scan your eye for that. But, you know,
Yeah, I went through TSA today. It was great. Just kidding. So yeah.
you have pre-check or not?
No, I don't have pre-check at all.
No. You got it. You should do that, man. Yeah.
As long as they don't make you take your laptop out of your bag, it's pretty quick.
And you can keep your shoes on.
Yeah, you keep your shoes on and you're good to go. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, no,
Good.
I saw those I was wondering what they were. I walked by them today and I was like, Clear. I'm not.
It's like an alternative to TSA run by a private company. Yeah. It's pretty interesting. Yeah.
There's some research to do. Who runs Clear and why?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Sam Altman's brother. No, I'm just kidding.
Sam Bankman-Fried.
Skynet.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think that's a good place for us to end it today. Unless you got any secret little topics, Mike.
No, that's it.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for watching this episode of Dirty Money. If you're listening to us or watching us on any of the podcast platforms, do give us a 5-star review. Share the episode with your friends. If you're on any of the micro content platforms, TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube, do follow us on there. Our what is it called? Our handle is at Dirty Money Show on all of those. I was going to say our ticker symbol. That's stocks, isn't it? What am I talking about? Right? Our handle on there is at Dirty Money Show on all of those. So do check us out. Thanks so much for watching, and thanks for joining me, Mike. I hope you enjoy your concert that you're in Tennessee.
Nashville, Tennessee. Woo! We'll see how it goes.
Cool. Have a good time, man, and we'll see all of you guys next week. Bye bye.